Hello, fellas, and pardon me for my incessant panting because I've just climbed 3 floors. I'm getting old. Well, today we're going to be looking at Birches by Robert Frost. Robert Frost happens to be my favorite poet, my favorite American poet. So let's get started without any delay. Now, like I always do, some facts about the poet before we begin so that we have a better understanding of the poem. Now, Robert Frost was an American poet, but his works were initially published in England before they were published in America. So yeah, that's a quick fact that you should know. So now see, his personal life was quite interrupted a lot, in fact, and it was marred by a lot of struggle and grief. But he ultimately graduated with English and psychology from Harvard, which is why he's my favorite poet. Because I love English and psychology the most. Then his very first poem, the most famous poem, The Road Not Taken, according to him, is quite understood by us and by the readers. So we still don't know. And throughout his work, in most of his works rather, he has depicted a lot of England in the rural areas, right? There's a lot of depiction of rural England, which we will find in Birches as well. Let's get started with the poem itself. So Birches by Robert Frost, it is written in a blank verse. This is quite a lengthy poem. This is just the literary analysis. Other things like themes, symbols and all, a separate video will be there because I don't want to burn you out with a lot of stuff. So yeah, when I see birches bend left to right and across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them, right? Now, this is just a fantasy of the poet. The fantasy is that when he sees the birch trees, by the way, birch trees are trees which are found in quite higher altitudes, and they have a very thin, sleek, and tender bark. So they are very, very flexible. They can bend left and right, which is written over here. When I see birches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them, right? So I like to think some boy's been swinging them. This is just the fantasy of the poet that some boy is swinging these trees. So yeah, but swinging doesn't bend them down to stay. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay. Now, by the way, this is alliteration over here. Swinging doesn't bend them down to stay. So I like to think some boys been swinging them, but swinging doesn't, the sound, stay, right? This is alliteration. And yeah, for all the people who will be appearing for your CUET examinations, these figures of speech are quite important. Because I am someone who has appeared for the CUET examination. I have graduated my school currently and I appeared for CUET examination. In my English paper, there were, as far as I can remember, 4 or 5 questions pertaining to figures of speech. So yeah, that can't be missed out. I like to think some boys been swinging them, but swinging doesn't bend them down to stay as ice storms do. Now this is, a practicality. This is a practical thing that the poet is bringing in. The imagination initially was that, a boy is swinging those trees, and which is why the trees are bending from left to right. But I think so on a more practical basis, so says the poet, that I think so on a more practical basis, an ice storm has occurred, which is why these birches are bent to the left or to the right, right? Often you must have seen them loaded with ice on a sunny, wintry morning after rain. This is an oxymoron, sunny, wintry morning after rain. So yeah, often you must have seen them loaded with ice, a sunny winter morning after rain. So now the concept of ice storm is further elaborated by the poet, and the poet says that you must have seen, he says to the readers, that you must have seen often that, a birch tree after a night when it has snowed a lot, when the morning comes, when the sun is there, and in the night it was snowing, loaded with ice. The birch trees in the morning are now loaded with ice because, of course, it was a snowstorm last night. It was snowing and the snow has deposited itself on the birch trees. So now when the morning has come on the sunny wintry morning, it is now loaded with ice. They click upon themselves. This is onomatopoeia. They click upon themselves, right? They click upon themselves. So the trees, they click upon themselves. How? As the breeze rises and turn many colored. As the breeze rises. Now when the morning comes, right? Imagine, this is just a very, very natural imagery used over here. The poet is saying that after the night when it has snowed and now when the morning comes, it is sunny and there is breeze. So when there is breeze amongst the trees, when the breeze rises and turn many colored, now it is when the birches, they click upon themselves, right? Now imagine that these my fingers are like birches. So when the breeze rises, the birches, I told you, they are flexible, and then they sway in the wind, right? They bend to left and right, they strike one another, and when they strike one another, that is what is referred to over here as they click themselves. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many colored as the stir cracks and crazes their enamel. Another example of alliteration: cracks and crazes. And onomatopoeia: crack and craze, onomatopoeia, and cr sound, alliteration. So as the breeze rises and turn many colored as the stir cracks and crazes their enamel. Now see, what happens is that, like I told you, the birch trees have a very, very slender and flexible branch. I'm sorry, the bark. Unlike trees like neem or banyan or coconut, where the branch is quite stubborn and rigid. It's not that. The trunk of birch trees is quite slender, and when now imagine that these two are birch trees with a very slender branch, and when they strike one another, when they click upon themselves, the bark that is there, right? The trunk ka bark that is there, it exfoliates. The bark comes out, and whatever is there on the inside, it is revealed. Let's say, for example, I don't even have anything. So this is my finger, which is the branch, or rather the trunk, and it has a layer of bark on it. When the birch trees strike one another, the bark peels off, it comes off, and whatever is there inside, the tender part, right? This is the bark, inside something will be there. Whatever is there on the inside, the tender part, that is revealed, that is exposed. And at times it can be dark green, that inside part, it can be light green, it can be white as well, right? It can be brownish as well, depending upon the age of the tree, which is why they turn many colored. When the breeze rises, they click upon themselves, the bark comes off, and whatever substance is there inside, whatever the xylem, phloem, whatever you call it, it is there inside, that is revealed, that is rather I should say exposed to the outside, and whatever color it is, dark green, light green, white, dark brown, light brown, black, it is exposed, which is why the poet says that that entire copse of trees that was there, it is now many colored when the breeze rises. I hope it is clear. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on snow crust. Shed crystal shells, alliteration. Shattering also is there, so alliteration. Shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching, alliteration. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells. Now it is a sunny wintry morning, the sun is out, the snow was deposited on the birch trees, and when the heat of the sun, when the warmth of the sun falls on the snow melts, right? And now the poet likes to imagine that when the snow melts, it melts all of a sudden, it loses itself from the branches, from the tree, and it falls down, as a heap, it comes down. And what is the imagination of the poet? The imagination is that shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. This is how the poet likes to see it as, right? This is how the poet likes to see that entire heap of snow coming down, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away, you'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. A beautiful metaphor over here. The snow is compared to the broken glass. This is a metaphor. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away, you'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. Now see, imagine, this is a birch tree, right? And on top of it, like on the upper part of the tree, the snow is deposited, and when the sun's warmth comes, it shatters and avalanches and comes down. It tumbles down, right? Immediately. The poet likes to think that because those icicles that are formed, right? That snow has turned a little bit solid, it has become icicle, right? Like the ones that we see in our freezers, icicles. And when it comes down, it looks as though glass was shattered and it has come down. Beautiful, right? The glass was there, it has broken on top, the glass was there, now that glass is coming down, it is crashing down. That is how the poet likes to feel it as. And that looks to the poet as, that is, the dome of heaven is there and it is coming down. It is so beautiful. Imagine how beautiful the dome of heaven can be, that the poet says that that entire site looks as though the dome of heaven is coming down. We like to think of heaven as rather very beautiful and exquisite, right? Heaven, when we think of heaven, we think of things like sky and clouds and glass and bluish, right? So but the poet says that when I look at the entire thing of the snow coming down like glass, I think that it is the inner dome of heaven that is coming down. Beautiful! And this is, by the way, a metaphor, right? The snow is compared to glass. They are dragged to the withered bracken by the load, and they seem not to break. Now somebody drags those entire bunch of, what should I say, snow or icicle. Somebody sweeps it to the side. Where there is withered bracken, where there is grass and dead leaves and all, where they are there on the side track. Somebody sweeps it entirely on the side track, and they seem not to break. They don't seem to break. Obviously, why will they break? Because now they have almost melted themselves, right? So they don't seem to break the entire bunch of icicles. Though once they are bored, so low for long. Now this they are dragged to the withered bracken. This they is used for the icicles. If you come to the next line, though once they are bored, this they is used for birches. So though once they are bowed, so low for long they never right themselves. The birches. Now we come to the birches. The poet says that once the birches are bowed, right? Once they have bent to either the left or to the right, they don't seem to right themselves. They don't seem to regain the actual position, right? Suppose if I have a rubber band, I stretch the rubber band, I loosen it, it will come back to its original position. But the poet says that the birches are there bent to either the left or to the right, but they don't seem to, like this was the original position. Now they are bent, or like this much. But the poet says that they don't seem to right themselves. They don't seem to come to the actual position. The birches are bent to the right, but they don't seem to right themselves. They don't seem to come to the actual position. Why? We'll see. The ones they are bowed so low for long, they never right themselves. You may see their trunks arching in the woods years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground like girls on hands and knees. Beautiful simile. So low for long, they never seem to right themselves. You may see their trunks arching in the woods. Like I told you, it is a copse. It is a wood of birches. There are quite a lot of birches over here across the lines of straighter, darker trees, right? So this is an entire woodland of birches. And see, the entire wood. Now birches, I told you, these are tall trees. So they have straight trunks, right? They have straight trunks. But imagine, now this is an entire, across the line of straighter, darker trees. This is a line of straighter, darker trees. But there are some birches who have bent to the left, who have bent to the right. Some this much, some this much, some this much, some this much. So the line that was originally symmetrical is now asymmetrical, because now some birches have gone here, some here, some here, some here, like that. So which is why he is saying that you may see their trunks arching in the woods. The trunks are, this is the entire wood, plain, which is coming like this, like a line. Some woods, some trunks might be arching like this. Arching means protruding, right? Coming off track. So protruding. Some trunks will be protruding. Years afterwards, trailing, and years afterwards, even after years, you can see that it is bent. The birches are bent. Why? Because they never seem to right themselves. Trailing their leaves on grounds like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. Now the bending of the birches is compared to those girls who bend down their heads and bring their hair in front of them just to dry it under the sun. We must have seen our sisters and our mothers doing that. Although any male or female who has long hair, what they tend to do is that when they have to dry their hair under the sun, they bring their hair in front of them, they bow down and they bring their hair in front of them, and then the hair dries, right? And this is what the poet is seeing over here. The poet is seeing that these birches, these bent birches, they seem like girls. On their hands and knees, they come down on their hands and then they bring their hair in front of them on their hands and knees, that throw their hair before their heads, right? They bring their hair above their heads, over their heads, just so that it can dry in the sun. To dry in the sun. Now that was the imagination of the poet, right? That was the imagination of the poet. I feel so that these birches are bent and they look like girls who have brought in their hair to dry under the sun. But now reality strikes. But I was going to say when truth broken, personification. When truth broken. Rather, it is personified further with all her matter of fact. Her truth is not an entity, it is not a person, it is an abstract noun. It's not a proper noun, right? So truth broken with with all her matter of fact. So this is personification. With all her matter of fact about the ice storm. So the truth was sitting over there, relaxing, watching the poet, imagining all over that these are girls and these are birches and they're like hair and all that thing. But truth broke in with all her matter of fact about the ice storm. This is all the matter of fact. Truth said that no. This is your imagination. I am truth, right? It is my matter of fact about the ice storm. The truth is that these birches are not bent because of anything else, the swinging or something like that. No, these are bent because of ice storms, right? So with matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them. This was the reality. This much was the reality. These two lines were the reality. Now again we come to the imagination. I should prefer to have some boy bend them. Now look at the choice of word. Look at the diction of Robert Frost over here. He says, I should prefer to have some boy. I should prefer. We all have realities with us, but at times we escape into our own imaginary world. We prefer to go back to our imaginary. We don't want to face the reality. We don't want to face the harsh, atrocious conditions of, let's say, the examinations, or for in my case, college admissions, or unemployment, or job, or social evils. We don't want to at times face that, so we go back into our own imaginary world. So we prefer the imaginary world to the real world. That is used over here. So I prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and in to fetch the cows. Now, like I told you in the beginning of the video, that Robert Frost has a lot of illustration of rural England. We're coming to the rural England part over here. I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and in to fetch the cows. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball. Now, there is a boy in rural England, according to Robert Frost, who had gone out to fetch the cows. The cows had gone grazing, and now the boy had to go out to fetch the cows. And when the boy went out, the boy actually did not have anybody to play with, which is written over here. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball. Too far from town. Now, if you're away from town, we are away from city, we are there in the rural part. So this boy lives in the rural part of England, and this boy is too far from town to learn fancy, modern, civilized, urbanized rather, games like baseball. Right? We consider game like, for example, in India, we consider games like, there are boys who use that tire, and they with a stick they start rolling the tire. Then we have a thing called gilli danda. All that is considered a play of the rural areas, not of the cities. Which is the same thing talked over here, that some boy too far from town to learn baseball. So this boy is too far from town to learn an urbanized game like baseball. So what does this boy prefer to do? Whose only play was what he found himself summer or winter and could play alone. The only play that the boy could find himself was swinging the birches, because the boy did not have anything else to entertain himself with. No fancy game like baseball, not many friends. He had gone out to look for the cows who were there out in the fields grazing, and then he came across those birch trees, and now he prefers to swing those birch trees, right? To swing on those birch trees. And summer or winter and could play alone. By the way, summer and winter, this is oxymoron, right? Summer and winter, contrasting, oxymoron, summer or winter, and could play alone. Now, be it summer, be it winter, trees are there, they're not going anywhere. Your baseball field or your football field can be covered with snow, can be covered with water if it is raining. It can be scorching hot. But if you're there in a woodland rather, and whether it is summers or it is winters, the trees are there. Swing them as you please, as and when you please. Summer or winter, and could play alone. The boy could play alone. He did not need anybody to throw a ball at him. He did not need anybody to service him, let's say, the cock of badminton or something like that. So no fancy game involved. We don't have to have any keeper to launch the ball at us, to throw the ball at us, or we don't have to have a baseball or a ball or a bat and glove. We don't need that. We just need the tree with us, and we just need ourselves. Go and have the gala time with the trees. So yeah, he could play alone. Now, One by one, he subdued his father's trees by riding them down over and over again until he took the stiffness out of them. Now, the poet likes to think that this entire woodland of birches is the property of the boy's father, and one by one he subdued his father's trees, right? The trees are there and he's riding them, he's swinging them. And go back to the initial part of the poem, the poet likes to think that some boy has been swinging them. That is the exact line. Some boy has been swinging them, which is why the birch trees are bent. So when the boy is swinging them, the boy is riding on them, he is basically subduing them according to the poet, right? The trees are being subdued. The father's trees are being subdued. I'll come to this subdued part symbolically in a while by writing them down over and over again until he took the stiffness out of them. So until the stiff trees, the trees were stiff, they were sturdy, straight. He rode them so many times, he swung on them so many times that the stiffness of the trees became limp and they started bending to the left or to the right. They were not stiff now, they were limp, bending to the left or to the right. And that has happened because of the swinging. And not one but hung limp. See, like I told you, not one tree was left which was not hanging limp. All the trees were hanging limp. None of them was stiff. None of them was sturdy, rigid. All were hanging limp. Not one but hung limp. All trees were hanging limp. Now we come to that part of the poem. We will be coming to that part of the poem where the entire process of swinging the birch trees will be elaborated. How exactly is the boy swinging the birches? He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains as you use to fill a cup. So he learned all there was to learn not launching about too soon. Now this boy was learning with experience. Nobody taught him to swing the birches. He's learning with experience. And he learned that we don't have to, launch immediately. He learned about all there was not to launch out too soon. He climbed the birch tree. He climbed on the top. But he went there and he maintained his poise. Poise means balance. He went there and he maintained his balance and he learned that it is not necessary, rather it is not mandatory, or should I say it is not advisable to launch too soon. That is to jump down too soon. This is the birch tree. The boy has climbed on top. He is there now maintaining his balance, maintaining his poise. And when he has climbed the top, now he will jump down. But that jumping does not have to happen immediately. Otherwise the tree might break or you may fall down, the branches might fall down, anything might happen, right? So he learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. The poet is saying that if the boy immediately climbs up, comes to the top and immediately launches, then what will happen is that the birch tree will come to the ground. It will become so limp that it will basically touch the ground. But we do not want it. Oh my God. We don't want the tree to touch the ground. What we want is, that he always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup. Right? With the same pains that you use to fill a cup, up to the brim and even above the brim. Now you're filling a cup. Suppose this is the cup. You're filling it to the brim. Brim means the top edge. Right? You're filling it to the brim and you want to fill it above the brim. At times it happens, that we are in that whim and fancy and we have a glass of water kept in front of us and we keep on filling it until it is this close to spilling, right? That is what is being talked of over here, that you fill a cup with water or with something up to the brim and even above the brim. That kind of concentration and balance and focus that is required while you are filling that cup just so that it does not fail. That focus is required by the boy to be over here. And then what happens? Then he flung outward feet first with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. Then he flung forward. He came down, right? He started jumping down. Feet first, right? He did not dive like this. He had his feet first, right? The legs were coming first. Feet first with a swish, onomatopoeia, swish. This is onomatopoeia. With a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So he was coming down, kicking his way down, right? Don't imagine him to be diving like a diver. The ones who dive inside the swimming pool, they come down with their hands, not like that, but with the feet first, right? So he's coming down with a swish, right? Launching with a swish with the feet first, kicking his way down. So because his legs are there before him, his legs are in front, which is why the poet says that he's kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So he's steering the air and coming down through the air, like this, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself a swinger of birches. Now I hope this much is clear. The entire process, the entire phenomena, how the boy used to actually swing the birches. I'd like to explain it once again. This is the birch tree. The boy goes immediately, climbs swiftly, comes on the top, maintains a fine, perfect balance, the exact balance, the exact concentration and focus that we need when we are filling a cup to the brim and above the brim. It should not spill, should not spill, should not spill, should not spill. Same concentration, the same focus is required over here. And once the boy has maintained that kind of a balance and focus, he flings forward, he comes down, right? Feet first, with the legs forward, kicking his way through the air, right? Coming down. Otherwise, what will happen if you immediately climb up and you come down immediately? What will happen? The tree will come clear to the ground, right? That is what it is. Now, the poem will take a nostalgic turn. So these points that I'm telling you, contrast, but I like to think, but truth broke in with all a matter of fact, all that. Then over here, the nostalgic term, all these, have to be inculcated in your answers just to enrich your answers. Otherwise, your answers will look normal. But we don't have to be normal. We are super normal. We're not super normal, but yeah, we are extraordinary. We do something extra to gain extra marks. Than the ordinaries. So was once I myself a swinger of birches, and I dream of going back to be. A nostalgic turn. The poet is saying, Robert Frost is saying that I was also a swinger of birches once. Now, when Robert Frost was a young child, he used to live in rural parts of England. And he also did not have any, this facility of playing baseball or something like that, or being in the cities with friends. So he also used to swing these trees. He used to be there in birches, right? Amongst the birches, swinging those birches. Which is why he's saying, so was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. A nostalgic turn. Like, imagine the days when we were kids and we used to be out in the street without any, consideration that tomorrow I have an exam, or I have my college entrances, and I have my interview, or I have my job interview, or I have to look forward for my employment. Those were the days. Those are the days I used to remember. Well, anyways. So was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. Robert Frost says that I want to go back to those days. I want to go back to those days when I also was a swinger of birches. When I was a kid, when I was happy, when I was free. I was carefree. Life was good. It's when I'm weary of considerations and life is too much like a pathless wood. Such a beautiful simile used over here. It's when I'm weary of considerations. Considerations means the constant worries of life. The constant, that this is about to happen. I have to look after this, I have to look after this, I have to look after this, and entire chaos and mayhem is caused in the head. Your head might burst, right, with all those considerations. So it's when I'm weary of considerations. It's when I'm tired of being in the adult life, and life is too much like a pathless wood. Look at the simile. Life feels like I am in a pathless wood where I'm just in a woodland. I'm just in a forest where there is no path. I don't know where to go. I'm all tired. I'm exhausted with adult life. Like, I remember when I was giving my CUET examinations, and I had just given my board examinations. My board examinations got over on the 13th of June. 16th of July was my very first CUET examination. I had 1 month to prepare the entire thing from scratch. I was mad. I had gone bonkers, and I just wanted to go back to my childhood days. I just wanted to Just wanted to disconnect from reality and go back to an imaginary world where I am free. I am amidst nature. The same thing is happening over here. Life felt like a pathless wood. It felt like I'm just studying for just 10, 11, 12 hours a day without any aim. I'm just doing it. The same thing is happening with Robert Frost. He's just doing it. He's just carrying out the activities of life, and all of it is feeling like a pathless wood without any aim, without any goal. It just is tiring. That is what Robert Frost is feeling over here. And pathless wood where your face burns and tickles with cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping. You are in that pathless wood, you don't know where to go, and all of a sudden a cobweb comes and it hits you in the eye, and then when it hits you in the eye, your eye is weeping, broken across it, and one eye is weeping. Your one eye is weeping. Now look at the word weeping. The poet does not say cry. This weeping, the tears that are coming down, or maybe the blood that is coming down, it is not due to just the physical injury. No, it is due to an inner turmoil. It is due to some sort of a pain that is felt here or here, which is why weeping. He is tired of life, of adulthood, of all the considerations that life brings to him. He just wants to depart for a while, to take a break amidst nature, go back to his days of childhood. He's so tired from a twig's having lashed across it open. So a twig had hit him in the eye, and now the eye is weeping. But this weeping is not just due to the physical injury. This weeping is due to some inner sadness, some inner sorrow, a turmoil, pain, mental pain, emotional pain, which is why weeping, right? Beautiful. Robert Frost wrote beautifully. I'd like to get away from Earth a while. Now, this is a wish. Right now, we will come to the wishful portion. I'd like to wishful. Is that even a word? I don't know. I'd like to get away from Earth a while and then come back to it and begin over. He wants to take a break. He wants to go away from Earth a while. Now, don't misunderstand it as he wants to die. No, we'll come to it. I'd like to go away from Earth a while and then come back to it and begin over. I want to go away from Earth for some time. I just want to leave. Now, Earth over here is what? Earth over here is reality. Earth over here is the consideration of adulthood, of adult life. And the poet wants to go, away from Earth. He wants to escape that reality for some time and come back and begin over. The poet is not shirking away the responsibility. The poet is saying, does not say, I don't want to do all this work. I don't want to be here. No, he's not shirking away the responsibilities, but the poet is saying that I just need a break. I am burned out right now. I need to go away and come back and begin over. I am being responsible. Okay, I am taking charge of my responsibilities. I am shouldering my own responsibilities and doing my duties. It's not like I don't want to do all this. I want to do, but not for the time being. I want to take a break and then come back and begin all over again, right? So the poet is responsible. He's not a coward. He's just tired. And then come back to it and begin over. May no fate willfully misunderstand me. Again, personification. May no fate willfully misunderstand me. This is personification. Because fate is an abstract noun, and misunderstanding is done by human beings, which is why personification. So he is saying that may no fate willfully misunderstand me and half grant what I wish. Now, what is the entire grant? What is the entire wish? The entire wish is to go back and come again. 50% go back, 50% come back. That makes 100%. To go back from, now this, imagine that this is the reality, this is Earth. To go back and then come back again. To climb, to come back. Right? If the fate misunderstands me, willfully misunderstands the poet, what will the fate do? The fate will grant half the wish. What is half the wish? Just to go up. He'll die. He don't want to die. He doesn't want to die. He'll go up and he has to come down. But if the fate misunderstands him and half grants his wish, he'll just go up. He'll never come down. No. I don't want to die. The poet does not want to die. He just wants to go up, be in an imaginary world, just to take a break and come down. Not by going to heaven. We'll come to that in a while. And half grant what I wish and snatch me away not to return. Please don't snatch me away from earth. I don't want to die right now. Right? Abhi maine dekha hi kya hai, that source. I don't want to die right now. And snatch me away, not return. Don't snatch me away from earth. I want to be here. Earth's the right place for love. Earth is the right place for love because we got human beings over here, we got one another over here, we got nature over here, we got our responsibilities, we got our family, we got our friends. Earth is the right place for love. Earth is also the reality. The reality is our work. Work is worship. All these things come to our mind when we think of reality and earth and love. Earth is the right place for love. Woo, beautiful. Earth is the right place for love. Where did it go? I don't know where it's likely to go better. I don't know where we can find any better solace. I don't know where we can find any better peace, love, and warmth of being around fellows except for there in earth. Wow, Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree and climb black branches of a snow white trunk. Oxymoron. Black branches of a snow white trunk. So yeah, black branches of a snow white trunk. Black, white. So contradiction, oxymoron. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree and climb black branches of a snow white trunk. Now see, black branches, snow white trunk, birches, lower part, upper part, all this has a symbol. I'll bring that to you in the next video, but for the time being, let us understand the literal meaning. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree and climb black branches of a snow white trunk. The wish of the poet is to climb the black branches of the birch tree and go up to the snow white trunks and come down back to the black branches. That's all. The black branches are basically the responsibilities and the atrocities of reality. The white branches are the imaginary worlds, right? All our imaginations and the comfort of imagination. I just want to go from the atrocities of reality to imagination and come back to the reality and shoulder my responsibilities. Much of it in detail in the next video. Stay stuck. Snow white trunk toward heaven. Now see, this is earth over here, right? This is sky, heaven basically. I want to go from earth towards heaven. Now see, look at the diction. The poet, by the way, diction is word choice. What kind of words is the writer using? That is diction. The poet is going from earth towards heaven, not to heaven and remain there. No. Just towards heaven and then come back. I'm not going to heaven to be there. I'm going towards heaven. I'm not going to die. I'm just going to take a break by climbing the birch trees, reliving my childhood days and then coming back. Till the tree could bear no more. I just want to, climb that much height till the place the tree can bear me no more and then bend down and put me back in reality. Look at the imagery. Wow. Till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. The poet climbed the birch tree, came to the top, and now the tree could bear the tree could bear the poet no more, and dipped its branch and came down and put him back into the reality and the real world. Dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good, both going and coming back. That would be good. Again, an oxymoron, both going and coming back, oxymoron. That would be good, both going and coming back, and one could do worse than be a swinger of birches. This is my favorite line. So the poet is saying that would be good, both going and coming back. Only going? That is not good. I just don't want to go. I want to come back as well, right? वापस भी आना है, ऊपर जाके वापस नीचे भी आना है. So that would be good, both going and coming back. I want to go, climb the black branches of a snow white trunk, take a little break in my imaginary world, come back and shoulder my responsibilities in the real world. One could do worse than be a swinger of birches. There is nothing better that anybody can do than be a swinger of birches. If you are not swinging birches, there is nothing worse that you can do. This is according to the poet. Like for example, like I am a literature freak, right? And if I say that if you don't study literature, there is nothing worse you can do. Robert Frost over here is a freak for birches, right? Is crazy for climbing birches. So he's saying, if you don't climb birch trees, I don't know what you ate. So yeah, that is what he's saying, that one can do worse than be a swinger of birches. One can do worse than not be a swinger of birches, right? Like, what worse can you do? Is there something worse that you can do than not being a swinger of birches? Like, for example, if you say, is there something better that you can do than not study and gain knowledge? Is there something worse that you can do by not being a swinger of birches? So yeah, that was about Birches. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poem. Okay, yeah. By the way, if you look at the entire process of climbing the birch trees, which is there, which the boy uses, critics have to say that this is basically the kind of effort, the assiduousness, the meticulous effort, the careful effort, the focus, concentration used while writing poetry. It's not easy to write poems, by the way. Appreciating art is very easy because it is human nature, but making art is quite difficult. It's quite of a task. So paying attention at the rhyming scheme, in this case if it is a blank verse, in any case, or paying attention at the iambic patterns, the syllables, the form, the diction, the figures of speech, all that is quite of a task for a writer. So critics have to say that this kind of concentration and focus that is used by the boy in order to climb up the tree and do that entire thing of playing and climbing the trees and feet first, and then kicking its way down, maintaining that balance, that poise on top, all that is roughly analogous to writing poetry, because writing poetry is not easy, by the way. It's difficult, and we appreciate it. We appreciate and acknowledge the fact that writing poetry is not easy. So yeah, that was about the literary explanation and analysis of this beautiful poem by Robert Frost. And I will see you all in the very next video. Don't forget to watch the next video because it has everything. It has the symbols. This poem has quite a lot of symbols and they are very, very important. Very important questions do come from it. So I'll come up with you. I'll come up to you with symbols, themes, the title, and how to write answers, and yeah, all that. I'll see you all in the next video. Consider liking the video if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you can. That there's this red thing where there's a bell, a ghanta on the line. If you click it, you'll always be notified when I put up a new video. So yeah, like, subscribe, and recommend it to your friends. That's all I can ask for you. Until then, goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.